Energy emerging healing modality, signs versus symptoms. Oh my goodness, I think I'm catching a cold. I've got a cold. Signs and symptoms, they're very different but yet very similar. It's important to learn the difference between a sign and a symptom because when we're working with clients, when we're working with animals, we want to watch for the different things that are happening. You may have an animal that's limping and there's really not anything wrong on a physically, mentally, emotional arena, but if you look at their paw, they might have a little burr in there. So you want to know the difference between the symptom and the sign. Now the symptom is something that exists like a disorder or a disease, but it's not really there. It's that stage of when we say, oh, I think I'm catching a cold because we've got a little bit of sniffles or because we have a chill or something along that lines. And we turn around and we're like, oh, that's the symptom of something to come. And the sign is then, you got it. But let's focus on symptom just for a little bit more. When we look at a symptom, we want to realize that it hasn't really taken hold yet. So it makes it a little bit easier for us to move it out, for us to help the person to get a hold of it. It's kind of like when, you have a little one and you may say to them, oh, you better put your coat on so you don't catch a cold. You've put a power of suggestion in their head. You've put the thought of process in their head that they're going to catch a cold. And before too long, everything's going to lead up to that. Everything's going to direct them to that happening, making the symptom become more than what it really is. And there's really no symptom there. It's just the power of suggestion. And that's how the domino begins to move. That's how things begin to happen. And there's really no real evidence of a symptom being present. For example, it may be the kind of thing where you sneeze 3 times and you're like, oh, that means I've got an allergy. Those are things that we've learned to believe. They're things that people have learned to just kind of take on. A lot of times it's old wives' tales that they've learned to believe or things along that line. But a symptom, it doesn't really have a foundation yet. It hasn't really put the key in the lock and turned it open. So it's still at the very beginning stages, and that's a really great place to work because we're able to, and let's call it, trying to think of the word I want to use. Let's call it as maintenance. We're keeping things in a healthy place. We're keeping the energy flowing in a really good space, in a really good direction, and in a really good manner. So that's what's really important when we're looking at symptoms is to know that we haven't locked it in and it's just actually something that's hanging out here in the peripheral and we're going to get a hold of it and help the client, help whatever we're working with, move it out and really change that energy and change the dynamics on it. Now a sign, on the other hand, is you got it. It's there. It's here to stay. It's like a big stop sign at the corner that says you're not going to work today because you're down in bed with the flu. You're not going to be able to run because you sprained your ankle. You may have a past memory or trauma that's holding you back because of something that has happened and it's dug deep down in. A sign is the presence of something being there. A malfunction, a disease, etc. It's locked in. It's in there. So we have to go and find it, and we have to go and find the trigger point, and we have to go in, and if you will, kind of picture it like one of those game machines where the big claw comes down and gets a hold of the toy and pulls it up out, and you win the toy or you don't. And that's where we want to win that toy. We want that big claw, that energy to go in there and to help bring them the healing and to help take that sign and throw it away. Remove it as far away as we can and release it and let it go. And we have to stay steadfast as therapists and as practitioners to really help people process through that and really help take the weight off it. I always see a sign, it looks like a great big brick. just sitting on top of a person in the situation, in the place where they may be, and it's just weighing them down. And it's not, like we've said numerous times, it's not serving the higher good of where they're at and what's going on in their lives. Now, how do we deal with this? Number one, we listen. We really want to listen to what their bodies are saying. When we hit that brick wall energetically and we're like, wow, there is really something going on here with your hips. Don't know what it's about, but let's see what we can find out. If you had trouble with your hips, or, communicating and really listening to what that body is saying to you and hearing it and accepting it and stepping into that window of saying, okay, I'm getting this. This is what's coming together. And then the next step is to communicate it. You want to communicate that information to the client, to the person you're talking to. You may say, I noticed when you came in, you're limping, and as I'm working with your energy, I'm really hitting a block right here. Can you feel that? Can you, do you sense that? Do you know what I'm talking about? No, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not limping. What is that? That's a symptom of something that wants to attach in, or something that's out there that's not really there yet. Or they'll say, oh man, yeah, I was in a wreck when I was 5 years old, and blah, 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 blah. And you're communicating, you're being back and forth. And as you talk about this, it's kind of like you're taking this big message on the grease board in the sky. And as you're putting the information up there, they're validating it. They're releasing it. They're saying, I'm not real sure about that. So we look for more answers. We look for more direction of what we're going to do to help get that symptom or that sign to release, because we're communicating and we're putting it up on this big grease board. If you're religious, you could say it's like putting that big prayer up there and having your God source erase it, or letting the guides and the angels and the masters help you process through, and or allowing the universe and your body to come into perfect alignment, to be able to be determined and get in there and do what it is we're led to do. Be determined. Stay steadfast with it. Don't give up. Don't work for just a little bit and feel like, oh, I can't do it. I can't get it. Or maybe it's the type of thing where you have to be determined and say, we didn't get the whole thing this time, but you didn't get it just yesterday, so we're going to have to work on this a little bit, and I want you to work on it as well at home, and really start being aware of the things that are triggering, and really set the determination towards wellness, that which is for their higher good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take it and move it on out. We're going to it's kind of like I said, take that big old claw in that toy machine, catch it, take it out and release it and remove it. And as you're doing that and you're talking and you're communicating and you're working with someone, they'll be able to communicate, wow, I don't feel so heavy. I don't feel so ill. I don't feel so strained. All of those are things that'll start happening. I always tell a client too when we're working, and we'll go into this in a lot of detail later in the program, and I believe it's in level 2, where when we're working, and sometimes people will feel it. Sometimes people are very physically body aware, mentally aware, spiritually aware, and they can tell when we're in there doing the work. And sometimes they're not. And sometimes they just kind of like are relaxed, chilling, or doing whatever. And what happens when we're working with energy, those that are aware can feel it. Those that aren't or don't, whatever, however it works, it doesn't matter. Energy is energy, and as we're working with it, we're going to make it change. We're going to make it do something, and always focused on for the highest good. Move it on out.